Hey Central Virginia, the United States housing market continues to slow down, but is that what we're seeing in our local market? We'll break that down for you in your September housing market update. What is going on, party people? My name is Chris Elliot, local realtor with over 550 home sales under my belt right here locally in Central Virginia. And in this video today, what we're going to do is we're going to break down what we're seeing in our local housing market. Now, you may have heard COVID is officially over. So if you're still wearing your mask, you may want to take that off. I think the CDC will approve of that. But what that means is that we are officially out of the COVID craziness market where homes were just flying off the shelf, appreciating at double-digit rates per year. That is all behind us. That also means the power dynamics between buyers and sellers have shifted. Now, you may have seen this graphic that broke the internet. Not really. Just kind of got popular on social media when it came to housing. But Redfin put out a graphic that said there were approximately 500,000 more sellers in the United States housing market than there were buyers at this moment in time, indicating that we were officially in a buyer's market. And I got a ton of kind of concerned phone calls, text messages from clients, friends. They were asking about this. Now, here's the nuance that Redfin graphic and the national news media is not sharing with you. And I'll quote Lance Lampert, the co-founder of Resi Club. Since the national pandemic housing boom fizzled out in 2022, the national power dynamic has slowly shifted from sellers to buyers. Of course, across the country, that shift has varied significantly. So I'm happy to report to you in our own Central Virginia, we are still continuing to see positive home price appreciation compared to a bunch of markets that have begun to see prices going down. Now, I will admit that growth has slowed down. We saw this time in 2024, we were seeing 6.5% year-over-year appreciation, whereas currently in the month of July, we only saw 2.4% year-over-year appreciation. So that has slowed, but it is still, I always like to highlight, it still is appreciation versus depreciation, which for my public school folks like myself, that means home prices are continuing to go up as opposed to going down. And I feel like we share this every month, but I always find I still need to highlight this. Our average days on the market in our market is currently 8 days. And on average, home sellers in Central Virginia are getting 100% of their asking prices. So our metro market is still very healthy. We are still very much cooking, very much still in a seller's market in Central Virginia. Now, another thing that people have been asking me about recently are mortgage rates. We have seen rates come down recently. At the time of this recording in late August, we are currently sitting at approximately 6.5% on a 30-year par interest rate, which is down from the highs of 7% that we saw earlier this year. And it's certainly going to be interesting to see where we go from here. Three of the major forecasters, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and Wells Fargo, are predicting that rates are going to stay relatively the same over the next, let's call it, year and a half. They predict, we'll kind of more or less be in the same place by the end of 2026, with the most optimistic predictions of Fannie Mae being that we're going to get to 6% by the end of 2026. So if you are waiting for rates to drop, I would absolutely recommend packing a lunch. So you might be asking yourself, Chris, hey, all this sounds good, but what does this mean to me? Well, so here's the advice that we're currently giving to both our seller clients and to our buyer clients. Number one for our sellers, TikTok, TikTok. If you are somebody that is looking to sell their home before the end of this year, the earlier you get your home on the market in this last quarter, the better. What we know historically, and I believe personally that we're returning to more of a normalized seasonal market here in Metro Richmond, is that the activity in the housing market tends to taper down and slow down throughout the end of the year. So we're still going to sell plenty of homes in September, October, but if you can have your way, I'd recommend selling and putting your home on the market in September, October, as opposed to November or December. Secondly, kind of piggybacking off of that, this time of year, there's less margin for error in pricing. So if you're somebody that puts their home on the market in early spring and you want to kind of test the market and, put a price that's higher than what it necessarily should be, sometimes we'll kind of go along with clients with that because we know we have the margin for error where, if the home doesn't sell after a month or two, we can still reduce our price, and we're reducing our price in April, May, June. Whereas this time of year, if you don't get your price right out of the gate, it could mean that you're reducing your price in a much slower market in the winter, or you could simply just not sell over the winter. So if you are somebody that is selling, I would encourage you to make sure you get the price right from the get-go, because it could be the difference of your home selling or not selling. For my buyers, already kind of mentioned it, but if you're waiting for interest rates to drop, I would recommend packing a lunch. All of the smart folks, I know you've got your own predictions. I know you study, mortgage rates in your spare time, but all of the smart folks with economic departments are all predicting that we're going to be in a relatively stable mortgage rate environment for the next, let's call it year and a half. So I don't think rates are going going much of anywhere anytime soon. And last but not least, winter is the season to buy. So what we know is we historically see less homes hitting the market in the fall and the winter months. However, those homes tend to sell for less money, not necessarily bargain basement prices, but you tend not to be competing for as many homes in the fall and the winter months. There is going to be less inventory to choose from, but if you can find a home that works for you and your family, we always like to encourage clients to jump on that home in the fall and the winter months, because those same homes in the spring and the summer you might be competing with several buyers for. So I hope all this made sense. If you have any questions, concerns that we didn't address, throw it in the comments, shoot me a DM. If we can help you with your next home sale or home purchase, shoot me a DM, give me a call. Thanks for tuning in. Look forward to seeing you next month.